Hello and welcome to Post Credit, the podcast for you to go to for all your movie needs you have after the credits roll. We'll provide you every week with news, reviews, predictions, and theories, as well as exclusive movie details you can't find anywhere else. If this is your first time listening to us, hello. If you're coming back, hello again, and it's very nice to see you today. How neat is that when you follow and subscribe to our podcast, we give you an extra greeting. That's so kind of us. All right. We're excited for today's episode. Today we'll be covering some exclusive information from a couple upcoming DC films that we've uncovered, as well as discussing our favorite Netflix originals, including the recent hit, Always Be My Maybe. I am your host, Preston Moore, and I am joined by my co-host, Raymond Vanuya. How you doing, Raymond?
Doing all right. What's going on, guys? Thanks for coming back. And if this is your first time, thanks for being here.
We made it. Week 2. We did it.
It's part of the grind. You gotta just keep doing it.
It's part of the grind. We're already here into our second week. I can't even believe it.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like 3 months ago. This was just a far off. Oh yeah, we're gonna start this at some point. And
yeah,
last week I was like, oh wow, it's our first episode. All right, we're doing this.
Yeah.
We have logos. And everything. I was like, wow.
Yeah, we're getting started. We're in the grind now. Awesome. Okay, so that being said, let's jump right into it. So, Ben Affleck has played Batman in the past 3 times he showed up in movies, that being in Batman v Superman in 2016, Suicide Squad in 2016, and Justice League in 2017. Now, we know for a fact that Ben Affleck will not be returning to the role, as sad as that may be for some of us to hear. But we have Robert Pattinson coming in, of Twilight fame. I personally haven't seen him in anything other than Harry Potter, but I know that he's been on a roll recently, so I've heard that he's been doing really well, and kind of distanced himself from that Twilight name that may have left a bad taste in some people's mouths. So he'll be starring in The Batman, which is slated to release probably sometime next year in 2020, and Matt Reeves is directing, and he wrote and directed this movie. He was also the director of the Planet of the Apes trilogy, the newer ones, and a lot of people are really excited for this movie because Matt Reeves, he's such a talented director and he's a known name in Hollywood. So that being said, we have a casting call from The Batman, confirming 3 roles that will definitely be in the film, with character descriptions. I'm going to read them off here in a bit, but we are going to fancast these 3 roles, and say who we want to see in this film in these Batman roles. So, without further ado, our very first one is the Riddler. It says, male, 30 to 40 years old, a criminal mastermind in Gotham City who takes delight in incorporating riddles and puzzles into his schemes, leaving them as clues for the authorities to solve. So we know the Riddler. He was in Batman Forever back in the day.
We don't talk about that.
Little Jim Carrey. He's been in Gotham, the new TV show. I haven't seen all of Gotham, but I know what I did see I liked for the most part. Mm-hmm. But let's start with you. Who would you fan cast as the Riddler in Matt Reeves' The Batman?
For me, someone that I would really enjoy seeing as the Riddler is actually Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I know that he was attached to Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, but I think he really has this range to pull off the character, because with the Riddler, at least from reading the comics, like, take this with a grain of salt, of course, because I don't know the entire expansive history on the Riddler, but from my experience with the character, I feel like he's almost really half serious, but yet also able to be really, in a way, charming, almost like creepily charming. And I really think that Joseph Gordon-Levitt could really pull off that role, because we've seen him not really play a villain. I mean, I didn't watch him, at least not that I've known, play a villain, but I feel like he still has that range that we saw in like The Dark Knight Rises, where he could be angry, yet he can also just be really intense as an actor. And then in Inception, we got to see him be really charming, and in like his other movies that are like 500 Days of Summer or 50-50, you know, he gets to play. He's played a wide variety of roles. Is my point, and I feel like with the Riddler, one, he matches that male, what is it, 20 to 40 age range, and I just
Yeah,
think
30 to 40. He's
yeah,
right in that.
I think he'd do a great part aside Robert Pattinson. And I think with Matt Reeves too directing, I think for the tone that they're going for, this detective style, a little bit more serious and grounded and dark, of course, as most Batman movies are. I really do think Joseph Gordon-Levitt would be a great Riddler. But what did you have?
I I really like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I like that a lot. I didn't even think of that. I really like him. Um, yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. He's one of my favorite actors for sure. I loved him in The Dark Knight Rises. And I personally, I mean, maybe they would want to distance themselves from like other comic book properties, but I don't think they like would avoid casting him as a Riddler. That being said, I do know a name that's floated around. This isn't my fan cast, but a name that's floated around for the Riddler is Nicholas Hoult. He was in, I guess he starred in Tolkien, the movie about J.R.R. Tolkien.
He's also a Beast, right? In the current, well, I guess now over X-Men franchise, yeah.
Yeah, he's the Beast in these prequel X-Men movies. So First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix. All of them he was in. So, and I like him a lot. He was one of the two. It came down to him and Robert Pattinson for the role of Batman. Obviously, Pattinson got it, and that's the only set casting that we know at the time. But Nicholas Hoult, I haven't really seen him in much other than X-Men.
Yeah. Which,
I mean, he's fine, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't like Nicholas Hoult stole the show or anything, you know. Like he's okay in those movies, I guess, but I mean, he could be Riddler, and he's the name that's floated around a lot. I know to actually be cast as Riddler.
I feel like it's
my casting.
Oh, go ahead.
I
feel like it's hard too, though, with that one, because it is. I haven't, at least personally, I haven't really seen his other work aside from X-Men, and I feel like almost casting him as the Riddler is almost in a way like a typecast, because he is nerdier, you know, especially in X-Men First Class. You know, he's a little bit more quiet, a little nerdier, and sometimes the Riddler in some iterations can come off that way, you know, where it's this guy at his computer and doing his thing behind the scenes, but he's not out there like the way the Joker is, or the way Catwoman can be, or Penguin, who's always out there. He's kind of working behind the scenes. I feel like because of the way we've seen him portrayed in X-Men as Beast, I really do feel like we could see, it's easy to see him as the Riddler that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree for sure. Yeah, like I haven't seen him in anything other than X-Men, but I guess he could. We'd have to see. I don't know. My fan cast for the Riddler, I almost know won't happen because of the past, but I had Jesse Eisenberg. Because
that's such a good one.
And I know, right, and you know, he was in Batman v Superman, obviously as Lex Luthor, and this is a whole other topic, but I thoroughly enjoy that movie, and I thoroughly enjoy Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. However, I do know that Lex Luthor wasn't exactly the Lex Luthor from the comics. It wasn't exactly what people expected. They kind of changed the character a lot. And Eisenberg's performance didn't really fit what people know Lex Luthor as. What it did fit, though, I mean, I loved it. I still enjoyed it, because I don't think comic accuracy determines whether a movie is good or not.
Exactly,
in terms of comic book movies. But I think based on that performance, as well as everything else I've ever seen him in, he would kill it as the Riddler. I think that's like the perfect comic book role for him, because he's just got this scatterbrained, like the way that he acts, the way that he delivers his lines is so, it's calculated, but at the same time it's very much just a little off. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
Like, I feel like he could fit that, and that's what the Riddler is. It's the Riddler has this plan. It's all obviously very complex, very laid out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also the way that he is. He's obviously mentally insane.
Yeah.
So like he's going to be a little bit off, he's going to be a little bit just a tad bit off, just slightly, and Jesse Eisenberg would nail that, I think, personally.
That's a really
but
good one.
I know
would
that
have never
won't,
thought of that.
yeah, I would love to see it. It won't happen because of, he's already literally been in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they'd be crazy to do it. People wouldn't even like that because of continuity errors and whatever, but that's something that I've always wanted to see. Moving on, we have the Penguin. That is our next character, 2 out of 3. This description says, male, 20 to 40, a Gotham City mobster, short, obese, with a long nose, and he uses high-tech umbrellas as weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the Penguin that we know and love.
Of course,
already. Just the character doesn't reveal much aside from what we already know about this character.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go first this time.
Yeah, go for it.
My fan cast for the Penguin is Alfred Molina. He was Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2. Yeah. I haven't seen him in much else. Not gonna lie. I'm not good at fan casting, so all of these I'm like, maybe this could work. That's why I try to never fan cast, just because I'm not good at it. But I tried with this. I looked at a wide range of actors. Alfred Molina was the one that stuck out to me personally, because the way that he played Doc Ock, I feel like he could definitely bring that same energy to the Penguin. Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2 is like one of the most beloved
villains.
And yeah, I mean, that story, people widely regard it as the best Spider-Man movie, and that's a debate for another time, probably for next week.
Honestly, yeah.
The people widely regard it as the best Spider-Man movie, and a lot of that can be attributed to Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. So I really, really think that he would be great as the Penguin. What about you?
I actually ended up with Jonah Hill, and
okay,
I think I put more into it. Yeah, the idea of what actors could really nail that character and then that range. Of course, with this description that we had, short, obese man with a long nose, that looks nothing like Jonah Hill. But I mean, not
because he lost all this weight.
Yeah, I mean, dude's looking good.
He's
now.
all skinny now.
But what do you call this? It looks just like, I mean, okay, bro Thor. Chris Hemsworth obviously didn't put on all that weight. It's just they put him in a suit. So for me, this could really be anybody in a suit and a prosthetic nose. I mean, but for me, it's just Jonah Hill's really evolved from just comedy. Like we saw him in, what was that, Superbad? Yeah, things like that, and 21 Jump Street. From roles like that, I don't know if you've seen Moneyball, where there's that story of Billy Bean, and plays like a really big role there. He's pretty much the secondary role to Brad Pitt, but it's such a good movie, and I feel like he's really become one of those actors that can be, just like I said with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, both funny and kind of cartoony in a way that we've seen the Penguin with, his high-tech umbrellas and his penguin puns, but I really do think that he has the range to pull off also that aspect of the Penguin, because the thing is with Batman's villains, right? It's that I read somewhere it was like this psychological thing about them, and it's that they're supposed to be these reflections of what Batman could be or should be, in somehow, shape, way, or form. I mean, the Riddler has the knowledge and that detective skill that Batman has, and that's what he could be. This is what Batman could be. And then the Penguin is just like Bruce Wayne. He's rich, he has the money, but he uses it for things like evil instead of doing what Bruce Wayne does and helping the community and being Batman. And I feel like with Jonah Hill, aside from Robert Pattinson, they really have a chance to do something where it's like he's looking at a darker reflection of himself, if that makes sense. And I think Jonah Hill really just has I just love Jonah Hill in any role. But two, I think seeing him acting in a serious role like that, where the comedy is also secondary to him, I think he'd really thrive right there. But who did you end up
Yeah.
with?
I had Alfred
Oh yeah, I
Molina. We
forgot.
already
Yeah, I
talked about
forgot.
this.
My bad.
You're good.
Sometimes you just
No,
get
I
into
really,
it. Yeah.
yeah, it's okay. Yeah, yeah, I like Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill's a good choice. He's one of those actors that like started in comedy, but then shown he was like, hey, like I can do these other things too, and it's really good. You know.
Exactly. I mean, did
I think
you
of like
did you?
Jordan Peele, John Krasinski, those kind of guys
Oh
that
yeah.
like have these other talents. You know.
I mean, did you watch mid 90s?
No, I haven't.
That
I want
was
to so
that
bad.
was a good movie. I mean,
I bet that's what I heard.
oh yeah, I was really just taken aback. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, Jonah Hill, you really outdid yourself. Like this is great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right. So moving on, our third and last one is Catwoman. This is says female, 20 to 30, Gotham City burglar who wears a tight one-piece outfit and uses a bullwhip for a weapon. So, like the other descriptions, pretty much what we already know. But nevertheless, we've seen multiple iterations of Catwoman. I know we saw her in Batman Returns with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
We saw her in The Dark Knight Rises most recently with
Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway, and I really like Anne Hathaway. Some people don't. Apparently, I found out, but whatever.
That's weird.
I love that movie, and I love Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, I love that casting. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, for sure. Who would your Catwoman be for this movie?
This is a name that I actually saw floating around on Twitter, but it is something that I ended up choosing too as my fan casting because I just think once again, yeah, she just has that personality that could really pull off that Catwoman vibe that we go for, that we got to see too, especially in Anne Hathaway's performance. I actually picked Vanessa Hudgens. She
Okay,
she comes off a little.
Gabriella.
Yeah, she's a little young, but I mean, what do we have? 20 to 30. I mean, that's fine. That like, I don't know. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
some actors just like they look younger on screen.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like, I would have never guessed Michael B. Jordan is 30. Like, I really thought he was 24.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
yeah, so I
Well,
actually
and Tobey Maguire was 32 at the time of Spider-Man 3.
see that's crazy
Fun
to me.
fact.
Like, I thought he could have been a
Yeah,
college
anyways.
student. But
Yeah.
yeah, I actually picked Vanessa Hudgens because I already forgot what the title of the movie was, but she had this role where she starred alongside. Oh man, why am I just blanking on the girl from Daredevil? She's also in Luke Cage, and she's actually like all the.
Rosario Dawson.
Yes, she had the movie with
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson, and and that was the first time I really saw her act very seriously, and I was really blown away. I was like, I did not think she had the range for that because of the last thing I saw her in was like High School Musical, and I really do think she could pull off that role. I mean, Catwoman, at least my interpretation of Catwoman was really like Anne Hathaway, that she's not trying to be bad. You know what I mean? She's just really,
Yeah.
she's like an anti-hero. You know, she's not trying to be bad at all, but
Yeah.
but she comes off as very charming, you know, obviously very beautiful. So I feel like Vanessa Hudgens would just nail that role. But what did you end up with?
Vanessa Hudgens. I had someone else, but I'm still thinking about Vanessa Hudgens.
Yeah, when
as
I
Catwoman.
saw that,
that's so funny to me.
I saw that on Twitter, and I
I
was like,
haven't
no,
seen-
that's perfect. I was like, that's good.
Yeah. I haven't really seen her in anything other than High School Musical. So that would be a big change for me having not seen her in anything else, but I think that would definitely be interesting. I had Olivia Wilde.
That's a good one.
I think she's a popular one for Catwoman as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I haven't seen, again, I'm really bad at fan cast, so this is another actress that I haven't seen in a whole lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that she definitely has the range. Obviously, she's got the talent. From what I have seen her in, she's been really good, and she definitely looks the part. I think she'd be ripped straight off a comic book. I mean, when you look at it, so I think she'd be really good in that role. What do you think?
No, that's actually a really good one, Olivia Wilde. I mean, Yeah, I could actually see that one. I feel like that is one of those things where it looks just like how Robert Downey Jr. looked like Iron Man. You know, it's one of
Yeah,
those things. Like,
yeah,
yeah, she came straight out of the comic book. No, that's a really good one.
yeah. Just people that look like that. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we had those three. Those are confirmed. Now we're gonna do one more. This is just one that we thought we wanted to choose. It's random. We haven't heard any of this before. We haven't talked about this, but we wanted to choose one other Batman character that we want to see in the Batman film coming next year that we do not know. We don't know that whether they're going to be in it or not. So basically, just a Batman character
Mm-hmm.
from his mythology that we want to see in there. So I'll start. My character that I chose that I want to see in the Batman is Harvey Dent. Not Two-Face. I want to see Harvey Dent first. I think it would be cool, even if it's just for a couple scenes, like an extended cameo or something. But since we're going with this younger Batman in Robert Pattinson, it would be cool to build up a friendship between Bruce Wayne and Harvey Dent as partners, I think, over the course of this movie, and maybe over the course of two movies, and then bring him in as a villain in the second or third movie later on, after, like, once he fully becomes Two-Face, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one I struggled with too, mainly because I think Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent is one of the most underrated performances that I can think of. His performance in The Dark Knight. I think it's overshadowed by Heath Ledger as the Joker, which we all know is legendary, but Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face was just unbelievable. He was incredible too, that whole movie. But my choice for Harvey Dent was Donald Glover. I think
Whoa,
I thought
that's interesting.
I went through a lot of different names for this because I didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know who to pick. I had a couple that I stuck on, but I ended up with Donald Glover, partly because I love Donald Glover. I'm just a massive fan of his. I've seen almost everything he's done. Love his music as Childish Gambino and all that stuff. But I think it would be really cool. I think he's the right age. He looks the right age to where he could be this young, friend of Bruce Wayne's.
Yeah.
And as we saw in Solo: A Star Wars Story, when he played Lando, he knows how to be charming.
Oh, definitely.
Like, he's got that. And I think that's something that Harvey Dent needs to have before he becomes, Two-Face. Obviously, he's this successful politician. Young, successful, attractive, charming. I think Donald Glover has all of that and would nail it. I think I would love to see that personally.
No, I think
what was your character?
That's a really good one, Donald Glover as Two-Face. I mean, well, not Two-Face, Harvey
I think
Dent.
that would be so fun. Yeah.
No, yeah, that would actually be really. I mean, that is another thing too, where it's I don't know if you've seen his newest movie that he released on Amazon, Guava Island. That was really good, but yeah, Donald Glover as I keep on saying Two-Face, but you get my point. Anyways.
Well, Two-Face eventually.
Yeah, in a cameo role, I think that'd be really interesting. But for me, I actually I went with Dick Grayson, just as a kid though. I wouldn't want to see him grown up just yet, in becoming Nightwing or even Robin. When I made this casting, I thought of it as it could be to the same capacity, maybe a nice little cameo at the end, or ideally. This is just me putting it out there. Like, I think that's how I'd love to see the movie end, is if this is about Robert Pattinson's Batman, right? Becoming this newer Batman and really growing into almost like a coming of age, but, for Batman. I think...
Yeah. Batman Homecoming.
Yeah.
Is what that would be, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be Batman Homecoming.
Let's just put Batman in high school while we're at it.
Exactly. But Batman Far From Home. But I would really like to see a young Dick Grayson appear at the end, because ideally when I made that choice, it was because I'd love to see the movie end with Robert Pattinson finally becoming Batman. In the very end, he goes to the circus, and that's the last thing we see is the tragedy at Haley's Circus, right? And it'd be a
Right.
great
Yeah.
thing if we're teasing the trilogy that Matt Reeves is gonna have. If in the second movie we could get a Batman and Robin movie, and for me, I think the last one, the person I picked was actually, I keep on struggling with his name, so forgive me, but the lead actor from Stranger Things, Finn.
Okay.
Yeah,
Finn Wolfhard.
yes. You know,
I love that
yeah,
guy.
he looks a little older now now that I think
Yeah.
it, because I actually don't really keep up with a lot of his stuff. I mean, I watched it, but I keep forgetting that was so long ago. I really feel like, oh, that was just last year. I'm like, oh wait, no, that was a little bit ago. Uh,
Yeah. He's old now. He's like 18, I want to say. I don't know. I've seen the promos for Stranger Things season 3, and
yeah,
he's old.
I just saw that and I was like, wow, he looks older. But in for me, I think
And he's a
it'd be cool.
fantastic actor.
Yeah, he's a great actor. But to see one of the kids in that have been coming of age recently too, like all these kid actors from the Shazam movies, the It crew, the Stranger Things crew. I mean, we have an abundance of child actors right now. They're growing up obviously, but they're doing
Right.
really good things. And I feel like to see one of them, even yet, like this to the same capacity of Donald Glover as Harvey Dent, to see him have that cameo as a young Dick Grayson losing his parents, and that's how Robert Pattinson's next story sort of begins. That's like the fourth act leading into the second movie. I think that'd be really cool.
I agree for sure. I think that's a good one too. I would like to see both of those. All right, so that's the Batman. Moving on, let's talk about Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman came out a couple years ago in 2017. It was widely known as like the DC Universe's first good movie. A lot of people say.
Debatable.
I really
Okay.
liked it. Right, right. I'm not saying I think that. I definitely I enjoyed it. I liked the movie. But
Yeah.
um let's talk about it. So, not a lot has been talked about it. I know they released a poster. Poster's amazing. Super vibrant and colorful and awesome. But we actually have a trailer description. We don't know when the trailer is going to drop. It's supposed to be very, very soon. If you're listening to this and it's already dropped, then this whole segment may be a little bit pointless because you've seen it. But we have a description of what the first trailer likely will look like from someone who's seen it. So let's get into it. This is a quote. It says, "The 80s was definitely on display. It showed a lot of Chris Pine. It also focused on Wig befriending Wonder Woman and gaining her powers, Wig being Kristen Wiig, who plays Cheetah in this movie. It says, ended with her big reveal and attacking Wonder Woman. No CGI for Cheetah, just makeup and costume. Looked really cool, like the Rebirth design. No mention of how Steve Trevor was back. Cheetah and Wonder Woman befriend each other because they both work at an art museum together. Wonder Woman appears consumers by the 80s and wanting, and Cheetah is jealous of all that she had. She saves people in public. She's a part of society. A lot of saving and a lot of fandom around her, sort of ignoring what was said in Batman v Superman and Justice League." So, that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot to take in. Wow.
That is a lot to take in. Wonder Woman 1984 is supposed to. It's already in. Obviously, it's been filming for a while. They're in production right now. It's supposed to drop next June, June 2020. So, what are your thoughts on that? I don't know. There's a lot to take in for that.
For me, I think the biggest takeaway from that is the last sentence is ignoring what was said in Batman versus Superman and Justice League, because that was such a big part of that. We haven't really seen Wonder Woman or heard from her, and she's kind of gone into hiding. But this one's like, yeah, that didn't happen. We're just gonna go straight for it. She sounds like a national icon at this point. Like she should be on cereal boxes. But just judging from this description that we have, and I think that's really interesting. I mean, one, it tells that if that is the case and this is the route that they're going, I definitely think that says, yeah, we're really gonna try hard to push into just having these characters really develop in their. And aside from that, the thing that stuck out to me the most was definitely they're really drenched in this 80s vibe, which I actually really appreciate, because have you seen the still images that were released from the movie so far?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, those look really good, and it's really colorful, which is kind of a
Hmm.
giant departure from like what we saw in the first one, especially like in that no man's land scene. Obviously, it's very dark and gray and depressing,
Yeah.
but that's why I'm really excited for this one, just because I'm really excited to see what they do with that, and I'm really excited to see the cinematography in this movie, just because of those stills alone. But nothing here really surprises me. That's the thing. I mean, nothing here is really shocking, kind of like how in the Batman versus Superman trailer, that Doomsday drop, that was really shocking.
Yeah.
But here, nothing really surprises me. What about you?
I I don't know. I agree with a lot with you, with a lot of what you said. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting that they're kind of abandoning the Batman v Superman and Justice League world, if you will. But I mean, whether you like those movies or not, they weren't necessarily the most well received. There are a lot of people. It's very divisive, obviously, beyond among
Yeah.
the fandom. But what we do know is that like they're moving away from that, and they kind of started to move away from it even as early as Justice League almost. But I think they're really stepping into it now with Aquaman and Shazam being both so bright, colorful, humorous. Really, a lot of things that Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman were not, for better or for
Mm-hmm.
worse.
Yeah.
So that's definitely interesting for sure. What I found interesting was the practical effects for Cheetah. I
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know a whole lot about this character, but it's definitely what I do know is that I was expecting them to do more CGI for
Yeah.
her. Maybe
Definitely.
not full on motion capture like Thanos, but I thought there would be a little bit more CGI aspect added to her character. But I'm still really excited for for her. I've heard great things and nothing else. People are really excited for it. I'm excited to see what it looks like for sure. I think Cheetah's a really really cool character, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also a big worry in that you can go wrong with it. I think in terms of the
No, I
look, it's
definitely.
it's one of those characters, kind of like Mysterio in Far From Home. He obviously
Yeah.
turned out looking great. Like that suit is amazing, but it's one of
That
those comic
fishbowl could
book
have gone really wrong.
right. It's one of those comic book characters where you're just like, okay, they're gonna try it, but there's a lot of ways to mess this up. So I'm hoping they didn't. It seems like they didn't. We don't know yet, obviously, but we'll see how it goes. The other thing that I found to be really interesting, not surprising, but like interesting, we know Chris Pine is coming back. He was
Mm-hmm.
personally he was my favorite part of Wonder Woman, the first one.
Uh-huh.
I thought he really really killed it in that movie. So, but spoilers for Wonder Woman. It's been 2 years. I don't care.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's another thing. Yeah, it's one of those things. You that's on you, man. If you
yeah,
haven't seen this
yeah.
yet.
So he dies at the very end, and it's this big emotional scene, and his death was really beautiful. It was really well handled, but
Uh huh.
it makes me wonder how they're gonna bring him back because he's literally in a plane, and the plane explodes. Like you see it explode. So
Yeah.
how do you think they're gonna bring him back? Because you can't have Chris Pine in the sequel and not playing Steve Trevor. We know that it's gonna be some kind of it's gonna be that same character, obviously, unless they I don't know they pull like a twin brother or a son kind of thing, which would be really weird and bad in my opinion. But
Yeah.
how do you
I
think they're
mean,
gonna bring him back?
I hate to say I was gonna go with the sounds like maybe that's like
Really?
a nephew that got named after him or something.
But they
I
look
mean, I don't.
identical.
I know that's the only thing. I'm like, how do you bring this dude back? I mean, he looks exactly like him. I mean, given this is a while later, but
Yeah.
still, it's just I don't know how you bring him back in a way that doesn't seem way out there. I mean, to be fair, the whole movie should already be way out there, but because
Right.
it's a superhero movie, but still, it's just something that even for that, rules of the universe for that movie, I don't know how you bring him back in a way that doesn't break one of those to an extreme. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I
When you
was really
think of
thinking it's gonna be a descendant or something. But
yeah.
yeah, go ahead. What did you think?
I guess they could do a descendant. I think that would be so weird because it's just because it's the same guy so obviously to all the moviegoers, like that's going to be obviously to every audience. They're just going to see it and be like, well, yeah, but that's the same actor, you know? So
Yeah.
I hope they don't do that personally, because I just think that would come across as weird and just odd.
They could Lazarus pit him. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
But
that's kind of what I was thinking is when you look at the time difference, if this is in the 80s in the Cold War, World War One is the first Wonder Woman. That's in like the 1910s. So we've gone 70 years of difference, and Chris Pine still looks like Chris Pine, and he doesn't look like an old man. Even looking past the fact that he was in an exploding plane. So the one thing you can think is, we know that it's not, oh, he survived the plane crash, because it's 70 years later. So even if he did survive it, he wouldn't look like this, you know? So
yeah.
the only way that I can see it is if it's maybe some dream sequence with Diana. But if Chris Pine is supposed to be a major supporting character like he was in the first one, then that probably isn't as possible.
I mean, it could be like a spiritual thing for her. But
maybe. I think they, one way or another, they resurrect him for some reason. I feel like that's what it is. I don't know. But I honestly don't know. It's such a big question mark, because you want Chris Pine in the movie because he was so good in Wonder Woman, and he will bring in those audiences, but at the same time you're like, how do we make this make sense, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been thinking about that since he was announced for the sequel. It's just, yeah, it really is just one of those things, like, I don't know how you make that really, I don't know how you pull that off, honestly.
Yeah, like, I'm happy he's back, but I hope they don't mess it up in how they bring him back, you know?
Yeah, because it just feels like, yeah, if they were to do a descendant thing, that's a little, that's just, you brought him back just to bring him back, you know? It doesn't really fit the story. You just did it because he's such a fan favorite. It's one of those feelings, but I feel like Patty Jenkins has yet to do us wrong, you know? So I'm just
correct. That's true.
Yeah, so I really feel like, no, she's gonna find some way to do this story and make it seem really believable.
I agree.
Fingers crossed,
sure.
but I'm not too scared about that one.
Yeah.
But I am going back to what you were talking though about Cheetah and her lack of special effects or like motion capture. I'm actually really excited for that though, because like I said, I trust Patty Jenkins. From last film, I do trust her a lot. So, and I don't know that this might be an unpopular opinion, but I actually liked how she handled Ares and the twist that was there at the end of that movie. I actually liked that. I enjoyed that one. But with Cheetah and her lack of special effects, I don't know, I think that could just mean, one, maybe we aren't going to get a very intense fight scene. I mean, you could still get a really good fight scene without, you know, any crazy motion capture or special effects or anything like that. But I do think too, though, that, and especially from what we've seen in the trailer description about how she's jealous of her and their friends, right? You know, I feel like that could really just mean it's going to be more of an emotional conflict between the two characters than anything else. And I think, yeah, that just sounds really exciting.
Absolutely. And when you don't use CGI, you lessen the risk of messing it up with bad CGI, you know? So
that's very true.
With a CGI villain, it's really easy to go wrong. That's another thing. So they're avoiding that, which is really good. And I love practical effects in any movie. I know that's a big thing, is like Star Wars uses a lot of practical effects. That's one of the things that J.J. Abrams tried to bring to The Force Awakens, and I love that so much, is because you have this sci-fi epic in The Force Awakens, but a lot of the creatures you see are actual costumes, or they're actual giant puppets, big contraptions, big sets, you know? So I love practical effects in that it makes it just look so much more real to the movie, you know? So I think that's something that I really am anticipating with Cheetah. I don't know if I'll like it, I hope I will. I think I will, but we'll just have to see. Yeah. So
Definitely.
moving on, our last topic for the day, we're gonna talk a little bit about Netflix. So Netflix, if you haven't noticed, they've been kind of slowly taking things away from us, I feel like.
Oh yeah, when they took off Family Guy, I was heated.
Right, we have that. We had Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders. All of that is done, canceled. The whole Marvel thing. They almost lost Friends, but then they paid like $100 million to keep it on for one more year. But the news broke this week that I think everyone's favorite Netflix show, or the most popular show to watch on Netflix, The Office, is going to be gone. At the end of 2019, NBC is taking The Office to their new streaming service. I think that will be 1 million streaming services that we have. But The Office is moving over to NBC streaming service. They're taking it off of Netflix. What do you think about that?
For Netflix, I'm sorry, but that's almost like the nail in the coffin right there. I mean, you're losing all of the Marvel stuff.
Do you think do you think Netflix is dead because of this?
I feel like it's really starting to slowly go out because, yeah, like you said, we have 1 million streaming services out there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we have the Disney one, there's the DC one,
yeah,
and then we have Hulu still, and then and then there's like the HBO subscription still, and even Amazon
Prime has their own originals. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like Netflix, is going to become that company where they really pioneered this thing, and they really became, we're the first really big streaming service for movies and TV shows. But now I feel like it's time that these other companies are just going to really just start doing it better and find ways to improve on it. And it's hard because I think for Netflix, the move to have obviously it's not their choice, but the fact that The Office is gone, a lot of people watch The Office, whether that's good or bad, is a different story. For me, I think this is a good thing for the sake of art and film and television, because it's like, maybe instead of rewatching The Office a fourth time, maybe you should go watch a new movie or a new TV show.
Go watch something else finally. That's how I feel. Is like people have watched The Office like 13, 14 times just on loop, and I love The Office. Like, I've never been one to talk bad about The Office. I really like it. I think Parks and Rec is better, but that's for another show. I like The Office. Going back to that, I like The Office, but I don't know. I think it's a good thing to have people, like watching other things, because The Office is just it's the number one thing that people watch on Netflix. I feel like is The Office and Friends and maybe Parks and Rec. I mean, those three. But mainly The Office, I think. And as much as I love it, I think it'll be a good thing for the general viewer. Whether or not it's a good thing for Netflix, though, is a whole nother thing. It's probably not very good. I don't think Netflix is dead because of this. I think they're definitely going to keep on trucking. And keep doing good stuff.
It depends, too, because, they do still have good things going for them, like they had Black Mirror, and they've had a lot of good movies, that have become popular. Whether they're good or not, of course, that's up to everybody else. That's up to each individual viewer's interpretation of the movie. But, yeah, it's just they've had a lot of success with their originals, but a big part of, we've seen the memes that have become of Netflix.
Yeah.
You spend so much time on Netflix because they have so much and yet nothing to watch.
Right.
Of course, it's just hard because Hulu even has a lot of really good stuff to watch now, and they have a lot of the older stuff, and even their originals, like The Act, that was really good on Hulu.
Yeah.
And it's just that I feel that with Netflix, they're just going to lose a large part of their membership or their viewership just because The Office did take up so much of that space, and if Friends is only on there for a limited time too, that's going to be gone soon enough.
That's true.
They're going to either have to lower their prices or something, but I know this is definitely going to take a huge hit on them.
Yeah. It'll definitely have an impact. Speaking of, you mentioned their originals. Speaking of their originals, you said that they had some really good originals that you really liked. And I
Indeed.
know that one of those that you really liked was Always Be My Maybe, the new
Yes.
movie that starred Ali Wong and Randall Park.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you love it? Why don't you tell us?
I really enjoy. I thought the story for what it was is really fun, and it was. I thought it's kind of just like it became one of those like classic rom coms that you enjoy. I mean, I'm not saying it deserves an Oscar, but I thought it was a really enjoyable film. I
Yeah.
love the relation. I mean, of course, the main thing is I love the relationship the two of them have. I mean, without getting spoilery, I do love the relationship that the two of them shared, and it wasn't really about the love story. I mean, it was, but it was also about them growing up as people. Of course, as every love story is, it's about the way the characters develop together or apart, depending on the movie. But yeah, just without giving off any spoilers, I thought that the relationship that they had, and then the relationships they had with the other people in their lives, like her relationship with her parents, and Randall Park's character, his relationship with his father and with his bandmates, I thought those were good relationships that really supported the overall character progression for them. So I don't know, at least for me, I thought it was really good, and there are a lot of moments that happened in the movie that made sense that were just like they really hit you, and for me, that should be the goal for these kind of movies, and they really just hit you in the feels, and it was just really good. And of course, I got to give it to the soundtrack. I mean, we've had some movies with really good soundtracks lately, like the
Yeah.
Spider Verse, Black Panther, but the soundtrack on this one, oh my, it was great. I was just like, wow, 93 till infinity. That was insane for me. Why didn't you like it?
Yeah, so I hate this movie. I think it is really bad. Um, I was so bored the whole time. I thought the writing was terrible.
Uh
None
huh.
of the jokes landed for me. None of them at all. I thought the directing was bland. I thought the colors were bland. The cinematography bland. Just
Mm-hmm.
a lot of blandness. I thought the story was kind of conflicting in some points, and I think there's a lot. I to me there. I feel like I could see the movie they wanted to make. Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like underneath all of this, there's a really good rom com that's really endearing and touches my heart the way it touched yours. But I didn't have it. I didn't get it. I don't think I got that. Like I wanted to like it. I went into it. I'd heard some stuff. I knew it was gonna be like funny. I really liked the trailers when it came out a couple months ago. But
Mm-hmm.
when I watched it, I was just like, I'm so bored, and I there was nothing that spiked my interest. I can't even think of a single joke other than I can't think. Okay, I can't think of a joke that was said in this movie that made me laugh, except for the 10 or 15 minutes when Keanu Reeves is in the movie. I
I mean,
love,
his scenes were really
yeah,
funny.
that part. I
Mm-hmm.
wrote the movie gets 10 times better when Keanu Reeves is on screen, and I genuinely think so. Like, I think I gave it 1.5 stars out of 5, because I
Damn,
didn't
that's
like it.
brutal, man.
It is brutal because I didn't like it, and I'm not normally that brutal. But I think if Keanu Reeves was in the whole movie, if the whole movie was like the 15 minutes that Keanu Reeves was in, I probably would have given it 3.5 or 4. I thought he was so funny. I mean, he stole the show, but it was only as an extended cameo, and that was sad to me because that was the part of the movie that I enjoyed, and I knew it wasn't gonna last. I wanted to feel something by the end because you can tell they want this emotional pull, and you can tell the
Mm-hmm.
story that they want to tell. I saw it and I could see it, and I knew like this is here, and I see the intent that they wanted with this movie, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
getting it. So I don't know. I wanted to like it. I did, but I didn't.
I enjoyed that. I mean, not for any other reason that I was like, oh, that's cool. But I actually enjoyed that Keanu Reeves and Daniel Day Kim actually had small roles in this movie. When I saw
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
Daniel Day Kim in the beginning, I was like, oh, is he going to be like, a very big part of this movie? And then he
yeah,
wasn't. I was like, oh, that's cool.
That's what I
And
saw
I was
him
just like,
too.
that's funny.
Yeah, I
And then
saw
I
him
saw,
too, and I
yeah,
was
when
a little
Keanu Reeves
surprised.
walked in, that was hilarious. But I was just like, that's Keanu Reeves. And they're like, that's Keanu Reeves. I was like, okay, at least he's playing Keanu Reeves in this movie, so that's good. But
Yeah.
I thought that was also hilarious. But I mean, I actually enjoyed that he wasn't in there just completely taking over the film. I mean, not for any reason. I love Keanu Reeves, don't get me wrong, and Daniel Day Kim, but I just thought that was a nice, like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll have a fun cameo here. But I don't know. I actually I really enjoyed the movie. A lot of the jokes did land for me. I think that's the best thing. Are we allowed to do spoilers, or no? Is that a thing we're avoiding?
Go ahead.
All
Spoiler
right,
warning if you haven't seen it.
yeah. Spoiler warning: if you guys haven't seen this movie, go watch it. I highly recommended it. I highly recommend it. Preston doesn't, but I do.
Let us know what you think.
Okay, the tennis ball joke, that was hilarious to me.
Remind me what that was.
It was when the dude was they're meeting with the band, and then he's just like, all right guys, our merch sales are on fire. And he's like, yeah, how are we doing? We've sold 7 shirts. That was funny to me. And then he was just like, oh wait, look what else I got us too. And it was tennis balls. I was like, and he's like, oh, what? That has nothing to do with our band. And he's like, yeah. And then I thought that was hilarious. And then when he comes
maybe.
back to it, because it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, like that might have seemed stupid, but then when he performs again in the next performance scene that he has with his band, and they make a whole song about the tennis ball, and to be able to relate to it, I thought that was a really good play on his character, because on Randall Park's character, because I was like, that just shows how actually smart he is, and how he's really resourceful. And because I mean, the movie really was about how he has such a talent, for whether it's for music, but he's really what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it. But my point is, he has a lot of potential. Yeah. And it's just that because he was too scared to go out there and go do it, and that he was making excuses for himself to not go do those things, that's why he didn't. But I thought that small little thing was really just one of those things that, like, oh wow, he really does have that in him, and have that drive and that potential in him to go do those things. But that's like just one example of the things that landed for me. And then the things that, like, I was surprised, like, I don't know how it didn't get to you, was when he goes to go talk to her after he told her he didn't want to go to New York, and he goes to her restaurant in San Francisco, and then he walks in her office and he sees all the merch, because he was like, oh yeah, we've been selling a lot of merch lately. And it was her. I was like, that's sweet. I don't know. I thought that just really showed that, like, she's really his day one. That's like what a real friend does. Because even though she's upset with him, she wants him, whether for better or for worse, to feel like he can still go out there and go do things. Did that really didn't land with you in any way, shape, or form?
Not really. I'd say the tennis ball joke was probably, one of the better jokes of the film. Uh-huh. Like, it got a little bit more out of me. But the merch thing, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I don't know. None of it landed for me. I don't know why. I just didn't like it. Most of that stuff was just kind of happened, and I was like, okay, but I don't really care about these characters very much. So, anyways, moving on. The last thing we want to do is talk about our top 5 Netflix originals. Now, this can be Netflix original movie or Netflix original series, like limited series, or Netflix original TV show, anything that is just Netflix. So, I'll let you go first. What's your number 5?
Number 5 is a movie. It is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. Okay. As you can tell, I love these romantic comedies, these coming-of-age movies.
Yeah.
Clearly. Noah Centineo really broke out in that movie. And I really enjoyed that movie. It was really 80s vibes. Because that came out it feels like, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, not too far away from Spider-Man. I'm like, wow, we're really coming back to this style.
Yeah.
But I really do. I never got to read the book. That is one thing I should also put out there. So I don't know how close to the book it is, or how different it is from the book, or if it's a complete departure from it. But actually, yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. Just because this is one of those things where, I mean, yeah, does it deserve an Oscar? Probably not. But is it one of those things where it has a good soundtrack, cinematography's good, acting's good, yeah, and the script for what's written and what the characters are given, everything happens and makes sense. I mean, yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And then, of course, the 2 stars really stood out. But for me, yeah, this is what lands at number 5. What about you?
My number 5 is Triple Frontier. I don't know if you saw this movie. Came out this year in like January-ish, maybe February. It's one of my top 10 movies of the year, actually. And no one seems to be talking about it, which makes me a little bit sad just because I really liked it a lot.
Yeah.
It's got an all-star cast. It has Ben Affleck, Pedro Pascal, Charlie Hunnam, what's his name? The guy from Tron, the new Tron, Garrett Hedlund, and Oscar Isaac. Oscar Isaac is the main star. And all 5 of these guys are bringing their A-game. They go on this big heist kind of thing where they have to get this money and then they got to take it back, and it's a massive operation. And I don't know, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. Not many people talk about it though. They talked about it like the weekend it came out, but that's about all I heard about it. But it's one of my favorite, definitely one of my favorite Netflix originals. So let's move on. What's your number 4?
So number 4, it's a little bit older. This came out in 2016, but it was The Fundamentals of Caring with Selena Gomez, Paul Rudd, and Craig Roberts. And for those who don't know who Craig Roberts is, he actually starred in another film that was also like a coming-of-age film, and it was called Submarine. And so for The Fundamentals of Caring, that movie is here. I'll read off the quick description. It was Paul Rudd, his character, retires after a personal tragedy and becomes a disabled teen's caregiver. When the two embark on a road trip, their ability to cope is tested as they start to understand the importance of hope and friendship. And for me, that movie was also just one of those really good coming-of-age movies where all the characters progress really well.
Yeah.
That's one thing, especially Paul Rudd. I mean, Paul Rudd really steals the show in there, and that is the balance of a really serious drama role, and still having that comedic charm to him where he cracks the occasional joke. But for the most part, it's a serious film, and I actually enjoyed his performance in there a lot. That's really one of the main reasons it's number 4 is because of Paul Rudd.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd recommend that movie to everybody. That's one of the first things I watched on Netflix when I got a subscription. It was really good.
I haven't seen that. I'll definitely check it out. My number 4 is the Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes. It's the documentary of, the tapes they acquired from when Ted Bundy was like in prison and stuff. I don't know if you ever watched it. It is chilling to the bone. I mean, it's horrifying, but so interesting to hear the things he said, because it's all this unreleased footage of like audio tracks of what Ted Bundy was saying when he was literally on death row. And I don't know, I love it. I think it is very, very creepy, but it's really interesting because they interview like his one victim that like survived. They interview his mom, like his family. It's really interesting how they just dissect his mind and go into this stuff. I don't know. It's creepy. It makes me get the chills right now just thinking about it. But
no, definitely.
It was a good watch, and it was really well put together.
I mean, I'm a sucker for good like documentary work. I mean, that just sounds really. I mean, I know that the topic of serial killers can be really interesting sometimes. Yeah. I mean, that's why it's out here, on Netflix. Like, right. People really get creepy. Into it.
It's creepy. It's horrible, but at the same time, it's like, show me more. This is really intriguing, especially with this one, because you get to see like inside of his mind, like really what he's thinking. So I really enjoyed it. What's your number 3?
So number 3, I feel like I might get some pushback on this one actually, but actually number 3 for me is Daredevil.
Okay.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have that at their number 1. I mean, Daredevil is really good. Don't get me wrong. From the cinematography to the acting, I mean, wow, yeah, the acting. I am Vincent D'Onofrio. I mean, wow.
Right.
But there's not much I can say that people don't already know about this show.
Right.
I mean, Daredevil is really good. Like, that is one of the most tightly written shows I've seen,
Yeah.
and the way they handle the Punisher, Elektra, and even the way they bridge into the Defenders, I loved all of it. And then Matt Murdock's progression as a character, I feel like it was what Arrow seasons 1 and 2 are on steroids.
Yeah.
Like,
I
you
can see
get all
that.
those
Yeah.
feels and you get that dark, gritty feel from it, and you're just like, it makes me wish everything Marvel ever touched was done in this same fashion, because
Right.
wow, that was
Yeah.
crazy. But like I said, there's not much I can say about Daredevil that people don't already know. But yeah, it's clocking at number 3 for me. What
Yeah.
about you?
My number 3 is A Series of Unfortunate Events, starring Neil Patrick
Neil Patrick
Harris.
Harris.
Right.
Yeah.
So I never read these books. A lot of people tell me that I should because of how much I talk about this TV show, but I absolutely love this show. It's one of my favorites that I've ever seen, just solely because it's got such a weird humor style. Like, there's so many the jokes that, like, it's very, very weird and odd, and it's the exact type of humor that I love. A lot of people don't like it. Like, I know I watched it and I recommended it to some people, and they were like, I tried it and it's so boring. And I was like, how do you not find every line in this show hysterical? Like, I don't know. I love it just because it's one of those things that you watch and you feel like, oh my god, like, this was made for me. You know, where you see it and you're like, this is exactly what I like to see. This is exactly my type of humor, my type of acting, all of it, my type of story, everything I'm interested in, all in one. That's how I feel about A Series of Unfortunate Events, the show on Netflix. I absolutely love it. So, what's your number 2?
So my number 2 is actually Sense8 from the Wachowskis. Have you heard of Sense8?
I've heard of it. I've not watched it.
Sense8 is really good. So this is like a sci-fi epic from the Wachowskis, and it follows these group of 8 people, and they're like psychologically connected. And there are more people out there like them, but there's only 2 seasons, I believe, and it's because the budget on that show was so expensive because they had to film in so many different places that Netflix couldn't keep it going anymore. But it was a really good show, and I mean, all 8 actors really put in the work and really shine. And it also has another thing too about it that I enjoy, is that all the actors, for the most part, or at least in the show, their characters are coming from different parts of the world, and so when they talk to each other and they can see what each other see and feel what each other feel, it really does highlight, I guess, the cultural differences between people growing up in Korea, or people growing up in poorer countries, people growing up here in America,
Yeah.
and people who go through like different struggles. And for me, I thought that's something that everybody should see, because it wasn't just about them having their cultural differences and overcoming them. It was about them using their cultural differences to help each other understand things that are going on in their own lives and to deal with things in their own lives. And of course, its own storyline of what's at, like, that's, the message behind it all. But the actual story of what's going on is that there are people out there who want either to destroy this psychological connection, or they want to meet more people with that psychological connection, and who they can trust and who they can't is really insane sometimes, because you're just like, can I trust this character or not?
Yeah.
And this is another really tightly written TV show where it's just keeping you on the edge of your seat, and every episode afterwards you're just like, I want to watch another one because it's like there's so many things that are just going on, and you're like, wow, I really want to see, how does this end? And that's the thing too with the series finale. So they did give them at least the series finale, so that way fans wouldn't be left hanging on a cliffhanger. But it blew me away, honestly. And then the message that they leave you with at the end, I felt like really highlighted the entire show, and that was really the most important part. And sometimes I still think about that show a lot because, of course, I love film and I love filmmaking, and those are a lot of those aspects there, minus the technical things like the cinematography especially. but minus those things, a lot of the themes that they have are things that should be seen more in other work, and I think we are starting to see them more. But I highly recommend Sense8. That's all I gotta say. Go ahead.
Definitely.
What's your number two?
I've heard really good things, and that was definitely a good rundown of it. My number two is Stranger Things. This might be Netflix's most popular original, I think, but I love it. Stranger Things is so I'm not a binge watcher, but Stranger Things is the only show that I will 100% be able to binge all in one day with ease. And I did it with the first season, and then I did it with the second season when I watched it, and I'm going to do it next week with the third season. That's the only show that I've ever been able to sit down and watch an entire season in one sitting. Other than that, I have to take breaks. But Stranger Things, that is the show that gets me hooked so quickly. I absolutely love that show.
Nice.
Yeah,
No,
so,
I mean, yeah, Stranger Things is great. I mean, I love Stranger Things. I mean, it didn't make my top 5, but that doesn't mean it's not amazing. No, I know that show's really good.
I absolutely love it. What is your number one Netflix original?
So my number one Netflix original is Black Mirror. I mean, yeah, one, just the aspect of it that you don't have to watch it all at once because not every episode connects to each other. I love that. Just because, for me, when I first started watching Black Mirror, I was able to just sit down and look at them and be like, oh, okay, I feel like watching this one today. I feel like watching this one today. And then when I did watch the episodes, like the Black Museum that connected them a little bit, I was like, wow, now I got to go rewatch all of them to make sure I didn't miss anything. And then, of course, Bandersnatch was good, too. I mean, I don't think it was up to par with the rest of their episodes, but I do like that Bandersnatch really tried something different. And it was at least a fun experience, to say the least, about it.
Yeah,
but,
it was definitely interesting.
Yeah, but I feel like the way you feel about a series of unfortunate events, I felt when I first started watching Black Mirror, I was like, yeah, this show was made for me.
Yeah.
Like, I love sci-fi.
Yeah.
I love things that are a little darker, have really good cinematography. And I love that no episode is, like, really hilarious or anything like that. For me, it's just a lot of little punny jokes, a lot of little funny things here and there.
Little
but for
things.
the most part, yeah, it's just, and then for that, it's another one of those things, too, where it's like each episode has its own theme of what's going on. And it really makes you question the things that are going on around you, like today. And it really starts to make you think about what's going on in life and those other things. And I really love shows like that. And so for me, Black Mirror is definitely easily, by a mile, number one over everything. But what's your number one best Netflix original of all time?
Mine is Daredevil. You mentioned it. It's your number 3. I thought about it for a while. It's definitely my number 1. Because that's a show that I think Daredevil may be just the pinnacle of comic book adaptations in any medium, like in anything like that just hits the spot. It's chef's kiss. It's so good. Mwah. I freaking love it. Speaking on Daredevil, like season 1, absolutely love season 1. Season 2 I liked, but it kind of lost me a bit in the middle. Without season 3, it wouldn't be my number 1 for sure. But season 3 is maybe the best season of television of anything that I've ever watched. Just the way that it's handled, the way it's written, how every storyline is intertwining, even the subplots like Agent Nadim, his subplot, when he was introduced in the first episode of season 3, I was like, I'm gonna hate this. Like this guy seems annoying. Like his subplot seems pointless. Like I know I'm not gonna like this. They just added this random detective, and it's gonna bore the heck out of me. But I ended up loving it, and I just love. There's no part of Daredevil season 3 that I don't love, and that's what pushes it to number 1 for me is season 3. Just because I've never seen anything like Daredevil season 3 in any medium, movie, TV, anything. Never seen anything like it.
For me, it's one of those things too. For if you're able to sustain that feeling and sustain that success over a whole season, that's crazy because it's hard. It's hard to make a 3-hour movie good, but to make a whole season that good,
right?
I mean, Daredevil. I understand why it's your number 1 because all 3 seasons are amazing.
Right, for sure. All right, so that being said, we're about wrapped up. let's do one more thing. Next week, we're going to talk a lot about Spider-Man Far From Home. That is the big release. It is releasing on Tuesday, which is weird, but it's releasing on Tuesday. So we're very excited for that. That's going to be next week's main topic. One thing that you're excited for in Spider-Man Far From Home, go.
For me, one thing I'm excited for, mine is Jake Gyllenhaal because I know him as an actor.
Yeah, me too.
I'm really excited to see what this post-credit scene is.
Yeah.
Just because
everyone
on Twitter is hyping it up, and I'm excited.
Yeah. That's got to be me too, is Mysterio in the post-credit scene. That's what I'm most excited for. So we will see you next week. Thank you guys for listening, for joining in on our second episode. We hope you've appreciated it. If you want to follow us on Twitter, I am at Preston C. Moore. I'll put that in the description. Raymond is at Arvinya, Rvinyah. We work on a website called The Cinema Spot. You can follow that at The Cinema Spot on Twitter. That being said, thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you guys next week with our thoughts on Spider-Man Far From Home.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.